First contact gone wrong. The hegemony warship Inevitable Victory dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its crystalline hull gleaming in the distant sunlight. Supreme Commander Vextel stood on the bridge, his iridescent scales shifting colors with barely contained anticipation. The humans' primitive detection systems wouldn't even register their presence until they were well within striking distance. Status report, Vextel commanded, his secondary heart pulsing with the thrill of impending conquest. All systems optimal, Supreme Commander, his first officer replied. Their orbital defenses are exactly as our intelligence suggested. Minimal military capability, mostly civilian infrastructure. Vextel's mouth tentacles curled in what passed for a smile among his species. The hegemony had spent decades studying humanity from afar, cataloging their technological development. While impressive for their age as a spacefaring species, humans remained centuries behind the hegemony in military technology. This first contact would establish dominance quickly and decisively. Launch the diplomatic probe, Vextel ordered. Standard procedure dictated offering primitives a chance to surrender before demonstration of force. The probe streaked toward Earth's orbit, broadcasting the hegemony's demands in all known human languages. Submit to hegemony protection, or face immediate military response. The humans' reply came not in words, but in action. As the hegemony sensors tracked the probe's approach to the nearest human station, a civilian manufacturing facility according to their intelligence, something unexpected happened. The station's external repair drones, simple maintenance units designed to fix hull breaches and replace damaged panels, swarmed the probe. Supreme Commander, his sensor officer called out, confusion evident in her harmonics. The humans appear to be reprogramming our probe. Vextel's scales flickered to deep purple with disbelief. Impossible. Our quantum encryption. The probe's transmission cut off mid-signal. When it resumed broadcasting, the message had changed. Now it was transmitting what humans called music, specifically something their databases identified as "Never Gonna Give You Up" by Rick Astley. They've compromised our diplomatic systems, the communications officer reported, his scales now a mortified shade of green. They're using our own probe to broadcast this. Entertainment, another officer suggested. Vextel's scales shifted to angry crimson. Launch attack drones, show them the price of such impudence. The hegemony's combat drones streaked toward the station, their plasma weapons charging. But as they approached, the humans unveiled another surprise. The station's garbage disposal units began ejecting precisely timed bursts of debris. Simple trash, plastic, metal, organic waste, but coordinated with terrifying accuracy. The debris cloud expanded into the drone's path, forcing them to adjust course or risk damage to their sensitive sensor arrays. Evasive patterns, Vextel commanded. They're just stalling with primitive tactics. His words died as the station's commercial communication array swiveled, its transmission dish realigning. A focused beam of electromagnetic energy, the kind used for routine data transfers between stations, lanced out at a frequency that perfectly matched the drone's shield harmonics. 3 drones dropped immediately, their control systems overloaded by what amounted to an overpowered Wi-Fi signal. Impossible, Vextel whispered. They're using civilian technology as weapons. The station's response continued. Maintenance robots, their welding tools redirected, began cutting through disabled drones with industrial lasers. Magnetic tethers meant for securing cargo now yanked functioning drones off course. Even the station's atmospheric processors had been repurposed, creating localized pressure differentials that played havoc with drone maneuvering thrusters. Supreme Commander, his tactical officer's voice wavered. I'm detecting similar modifications to civilian systems across their orbital infrastructure. Every station, every satellite. They've turned their entire civilian network into a weapon. Vextel's scales shifted through a rainbow of confused colors as he processed this information. The hegemony had expected primitive military technology, easy to counter, easy to overwhelm. Instead, they faced an enemy who had turned their entire civilian infrastructure into an integrated defense system. Their tactical computers, programmed to counter military threats, struggled to adapt to weapons that didn't read as weapons at all. Status of the diplomatic probe, he demanded. Still broadcasting human entertainment, sir. They've added something called Macarena to the playlist. Vextel's scales settled into the deep blue of tactical reassessment. Perhaps, he reflected, the hegemony's definition of primitive needed revision. Any species that could turn a maintenance drone into a combat unit or a communication array into a weapon was far more dangerous than their apparent technology level suggested. Recall all drones, he ordered. Prepare a full report for the Hegemony Council. They need to understand, we're not dealing with primitives. We're dealing with something far more challenging. Humans who can turn anything into a weapon. As the inevitable victory retreated from Earth orbit, the human station's final transmission reached them. A simple text message reading. Next time, try asking nicely. We make better friends than enemies. Vextel couldn't help but agree. The humans had just rewritten the rules of warfare using nothing but civilian technology and creativity. The hegemony would need a new approach, one that acknowledged humanity's unique talent for turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. The kitchen counterattack. Dr. Sarah Chen, head chef of the Titan Research Station's culinary department, never expected to become humanity's next defensive strategist. Yet here she was, 3 days after the hegemony's failed first contact, converting her kitchen into a combat center. Pass me that molecular gastronomy kit, she called to her sous chef, Marcus, and the liquid nitrogen tanks. The Titan Research Station, Saturn's premier civilian research facility, had received warning that a second hegemony fleet approached. Unlike the Earth encounter, this one wouldn't be satisfied with diplomatic posturing. Intelligence suggested they'd chosen the station as a target specifically because it lacked traditional military defenses. They think we're helpless, Sarah muttered, calibrating the molecular gastronomy equipment. Let's show them what a creative chef can do. Station Director Hayes' voice crackled over the intercom. Hegemony fleet detected entering Saturn's orbit. All departments, initiate defense protocol kitchen nightmare. Sarah smiled at the name, her contribution to the emergency response plan. Around her, the kitchen staff moved with practiced efficiency, implementing modifications they'd rehearsed but hoped never to use. The massive industrial freezers, capable of flash freezing food for the station's 3,000 residents, now aimed their cooling systems outward through repurposed vents. The molecular gastronomy equipment, designed to create exotic food textures through chemical manipulation, stood ready to generate clouds of rapidly expanding gases. First wave approaching, Marcus reported, watching the tactical display they jerry-rigged from spare tablet screens. Looks like standard assault pods. Minimal shielding, maximum maneuverability. Sarah nodded, her hands flying over the control panel of what had once been a precision temperature control system for chocolate tempering. Time to serve our first course. As the hegemony pods streaked toward the station, Sarah activated the modified freezer systems. Streams of supercooled nitrogen, normally used to preserve delicate foods, sprayed into space. The pod's outer hulls, designed for heat resistance during atmospheric entry, proved surprisingly vulnerable to extreme cold. Their metal contracted and cracked, forcing them to break formation. Second course, Sarah commanded. The molecular gastronomy systems released precisely calculated clouds of frozen carbon dioxide. Dry ice in its gaseous form, the clouds, nearly invisible to standard sensors, crystallized on the pod's sensor arrays, essentially blinding them. They're adjusting, Marcus warned. Larger ships moving into position, energy weapons charging. Sarah grinned. Perfect. Time for the main course. She activated what had once been the station's largest food processor. Now it sprayed a fine mist of metallic particles, originally used for creating edible shimmer on desserts, into a defensive screen around the station, When the hegemony ships fired their energy weapons, the beams scattered through the cloud of reflective particles, dissipating harmlessly. Getting angry now, Marcus commented as the alien fleet shifted tactics. "They're launching boarding pods. Looks like they want to do this the hard way. Good thing we prepared for that." Sarah activated her command channel. "All kitchens, initiate close-range defense patterns." Throughout the station, other kitchen staff implemented their own creative modifications. Industrial dishwashers, reprogrammed to spray superheated steam, stood ready at potential breach points. Food service robots, their programming modified, prepared to engage intruders with servo arms capable of lifting hundreds of kilos of supplies. The first boarding pod breached the outer hull, cutting through into what scans showed as a simple storage room. Instead, they found themselves facing a barrage of precisely aimed pressure cookers, their safety valves removed, converting simple water into superheated steam weapons. "Multiple breaches," Marcus reported. "They're learning to avoid the kitchen areas. But that's exactly what we wanted," Sarah finished. She positioned her defensive systems carefully, herding the invaders toward what appeared to be safer routes, straight into areas where the station's waste recycling systems had been modified into surprisingly effective countermeasures. The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The hegemony forces, trained to counter military weapons and tactics, found themselves completely unprepared for combat against repurposed kitchen equipment and creative food service workers. Finally, after losing a third of their boarding parties to various culinary-turned combat encounters, the hegemony fleet retreated. As they withdrew, Sarah authorized one final transmission, the recipe for her award-winning chocolate soufflé, along with a note: "Next time, make a reservation. We're always happy to serve peaceful guests." In the aftermath, as her staff began converting their equipment back to its intended purpose, Sarah received a message from Earth Defense Command. They wanted her to write a manual, Creative Combat, a chef's guide to defensive warfare. "Well," she told Marcus as they surveyed their battle-worn kitchen, "I always wanted to write a cookbook." The hegemony would eventually return, she knew, with new tactics and countermeasures. But they'd find humanity ready, not with warships and military bases, but with endlessly creative applications of civilian technology. After all, anything could be a weapon if you were creative enough about serving it. Operation Recycled Thunder. Admiral James Rodriguez watched the holographic display aboard the command ship Resourceful, a converted cargo hauler that still bore the faded logo of Amazon Interstellar Shipping. Around him, what the hegemony would consider the strangest fleet in galactic history prepared for humanity's first major counteroffensive. Status report on the mining fleet modifications. He asked his chief engineer, Dr. Amara Patel. "Better than expected," she replied, gesturing to a cluster of ships that until 2 weeks ago had been asteroid mining platforms. The mineral detection arrays work perfectly as targeting systems. Turns out finding specific metals in an asteroid isn't so different from finding weak points in alien ship armor. The admiral nodded, studying the assembled fleet. After the failed attacks on Earth and Titan Station, the hegemony had established a forward base in the Kuiper Belt, preparing for what they assumed would be an eventual military response. They expected warships, weapons platforms, and traditional military technology. They were about to be disappointed. "All ships, final equipment check," Rodriguez broadcast. "Commence Operation Recycled Thunder on my mark." The fleet's composition would have made any traditional military tactician laugh. Garbage SCOs retrofitted with electromagnetic pulse generators. Passenger liners with their life support systems modified to project disrupting atmospheric fields. Even a fuel tanker, its massive holds now containing clouds of responsive nanites originally designed for hull repair. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the hegemony base is hailing us." They're laughing." "Of course they are," Rodriguez smiled. "Put them through." The holographic display shifted to show a hegemony commander, scales shimmering with amusement. "Human vessels, You cannot be serious. You approach a military installation with garbage trucks and passenger ships. Actually, Rodriguez replied, we're very serious. Though I should warn you, we've made some home improvements. Combat positions, everyone. Let's show them what human engineering can do. The converted mining ships move first, their industrial cutting lasers, normally used for breaking down asteroids, now precisely calibrated to target shield generators. The hegemony base's defenses, expecting military-grade weapons, failed to recognize the industrial equipment as a threat until their shields began to flicker. Launch the cleaning crew, Rodriguez ordered. From the garbage scows came waves of what appeared to be space debris. The hegemony's automated defense systems ignored them, until the debris revealed itself as swarms of modified maintenance drones, their simple programming replaced with combat algorithms developed by teenage gaming enthusiasts. They're scrambling fighters, Amara reported. Exactly as predicted. Signal the cruise liners. The passenger ships, their luxurious observation decks now bristling with reproposed equipment, activated their modified life support systems, clouds of atmospheric regulators, designed to maintain perfect air quality for demanding tourists, spread through space. As the hegemony fighters flew through these clouds, their engines began to sputter. The particles, programmed to neutralize atmospheric contaminants, treated the fighters' exhaust as pollution to be eliminated. Sir, they're bringing their main weapons online, the tactical officer reported. Perfect. Release the repair crew. The fuel tanker discharged its cargo. Not fuel, but billions of maintenance nanites, originally programmed to crawl through ship engines performing repairs. They now swarmed toward the hegemony weapons, disassembling them at the molecular level. The hegemony commander's scales had shifted from amused purple to alarmed red. This is impossible. These aren't weapons. That's where you're wrong, Rodriguez replied. Anything can be a weapon if you're creative enough. But more importantly, anything can be a tool for peace if you're willing to think differently. He gestured to his crew, and every ship in the human fleet began broadcasting on all frequencies, not threats or demands, but technical specifications, engineering schematics, repair protocols. We're not here to destroy your base, Rodriguez explained to the bewildered commander. We're here to show you that humanity doesn't need military technology to defend itself. Every ship in my fleet could be converted back to its civilian purpose in hours. We don't want to fight you. We want to trade with you, learn from you, work with you. But if you force us to defend ourselves, we'll do it in ways your military doctrine can't predict or counter. The hegemony commander stared at the schematics flooding his screens, elegant solutions using simple technology in unprecedented ways. His scales shifted to thoughtful blue. Perhaps, the commander said slowly, we should discuss terms for a more cooperative relationship. Excellent suggestion, Rodriguez smiled. And I know just the place for negotiations. There's a chef on Titan Station who makes an amazing souffle. Though I should warn you, she's also pretty good at tactical improvisation. As the diplomatic channels opened, Rodriguez looked at his fleet of converted civilian ships. The hegemony had expected to face a primitive military force. Instead, they'd discovered that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to see new possibilities in everything they built. The age of traditional space warfare was over. The age of human innovation had begun. The Harmony Gambit. Director Maya Patil of the Global Entertainment Network hadn't expected her doctorate in acoustic engineering to become a crucial part of Earth's defense strategy. Yet here she was, standing in the main broadcast center of Luna Base, preparing to turn the solar system's largest entertainment network into a weapon. Final checks on the broadcasting arrays, she ordered, watching as her team calibrated equipment normally used for streaming movies and music across the colonies. And someone please tell me why the hegemony is sending another fleet after 3 failed attempts. Her deputy director, Tom Chen, pulled up the latest intelligence report. Apparently, they've convinced themselves that we must have secret military technology. They refuse to believe we've beaten them with converted civilian equipment. Maya laughed. Well, they're about to learn just how creative our civilian equipment can be. Status of Project Harmony. Ready, Tom confirmed. We've modified all major broadcasting stations across the solar system. Each one is capable of transmitting the full spectrum of the Harmony Protocol. The Harmony Protocol had started as a joke in the entertainment division. What if they could use their knowledge of how different species perceive sound and light to create the ultimate entertainment experience? Now that research was being repurposed for something very different. Hegemony Fleet entering detection range, announced the sensor operator. They're moving cautiously this time. Spread out formation. Heavy shielding. Maya nodded. They'd learned from their previous encounters, but not enough. Begin Phase 1. Let's show them why humans are the galaxy's best entertainers. Across the solar system, entertainment satellites and broadcasting stations began transmitting. Not weapons fire or electronic warfare, but music. Specifically, compositions created by analyzing hegemony neural patterns and cultural databases designed to resonate with their unique sensory system. They're receiving the transmission, Tom reported. Their communications channels are lighting up with confusion. The music was beautiful, even by hegemony standards. Complex harmonies designed to trigger specific emotional responses in their alien neurology. Songs that spoke to cultural memories they didn't even know they had. Phase 2, Maya ordered. The music shifted, incorporating subliminal patterns, frequencies that induced mild disorientation in hegemony neural structures, rhythms that disrupted their natural coordination, all masked within what seemed like a stunning cultural exhibition. Their formation is breaking down, the tactical officer reported with a grin. They can't maintain proper spacing while their crews are trying to process these sensory inputs. But Maya wasn't interested in just disrupting their attack. This was about sending a message. Initialize the visual arrays. Every entertainment holoscreen and projection system in the solar system activated, creating a massive network of light and color. To human eyes, it was a spectacular show. To hegemony sensory organs, it was overwhelming. Their heightened perception of color and light made them particularly vulnerable to the carefully choreographed display. "Ma'am," Tom called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the hegemony flagship. Audio only. They shut down their visual sensors. Put it through." The voice of the hegemony commander filled the control room, their usual harmonics distorted by confusion. What is this weapon?" "This isn't a weapon," Maya replied. "This is entertainment. Art. Culture. This is what humans create for fun. We've spent centuries learning how to move people emotionally, to create experiences that resonate across cultural boundaries. Did you really think we couldn't use that knowledge defensively if needed?" She gestured to her team, and the transmission shifted again. Now they carried images of human cultural events, concerts, movies, art galleries. But hidden within each transmission were patterns designed to interfere with hegemony targeting systems, to disrupt their neural interfaces with their ship's computers. "Your ships are currently experiencing what we call technical difficulties," Maya explained. "Nothing permanent. Just like a bad case of sensory overload. We could have made it worse. We could have transmitted frequencies that would cause real damage. But that's not what these systems were built for. And that's not who we are." The hegemony commander was silent for a long moment. When they spoke again, their harmonics carried a new tone. "Respect. You've turned your entertainment into a defense system. We've turned our creativity into a shield," Maya corrected. "Everything we've used against you was designed to bring joy, to share experiences, to connect people. The fact that it can also protect us, that's just humans being human." She nodded to her team, and the transmissions began to fade. "We're sending you some standard entertainment packages, properly calibrated for your species, no hidden frequencies. Watch them. Learn from them. Understand who we are. Because until you do, every song, every broadcast, Every piece of art we create could be either a hand of friendship or a defensive shield. The choice is yours. As the Hegemony fleet retreated once again, Maya looked at the network of entertainment satellites and broadcasting stations that had just repelled an alien invasion. Humans hadn't just changed the rules of warfare. They'd shown that the same creativity that could bring joy could also bring security. "Send a message to all stations," she ordered. "Regular programming will resume in 5 minutes. And add a note. Tonight's entertainment is brought to you by the combined creativity of humanity. No military technology required." Council's revelation. The Grand Chamber of the Hegemony Council hummed with nervous energy as High Counselor Zixtal reviewed the latest reports from the human conflict. Around the crystalline chamber, representatives from 1,000 worlds waited in uneasy silence as streams of data flowed through their neural interfaces. "Let me understand this correctly," Zixtal finally spoke, their scales shifting through patterns of confusion. 4 separate fleet actions, each defeated not by military force, but by modified civilian technology. Admiral Krell, their scales a mortified shade of green, stepped forward. "Honored Council, we have analyzed every engagement. The humans don't just modify their technology. They fundamentally reimagine its purpose." The Admiral activated the chamber's holographic systems, displaying scenes from each encounter. A civilian space station defending itself with repurposed kitchen equipment. Mining ships converting their industrial tools into precision weapons. Entertainment networks transformed into neural disruption grids. "Our military doctrine," Krell continued, "is based on countering known weapons and tactics. But the humans, they don't have military doctrine. They have innovation, creativity. They look at a food processor and see a potential defense system. They take mining sensors and turn them into targeting arrays." A council member from the science division raised their appendage. "Surely their technological limitations make them vulnerable. Our analysis showed them centuries behind us in military development." "That's precisely the problem," Krell replied. "They never developed dedicated military technology because they never needed to. They simply adapt what they have. Our warships can't effectively target their vessels because our systems don't recognize cooking equipment as weapons. Our tactical computers can't predict their strategies because they're not using military tactics." The holographic display shifted to show a human entertainment broadcast, one of the transmissions that had disrupted an entire hegemony fleet. "Even their art is a potential weapon," Krell noted. "But more importantly, everything they use against us can be immediately converted back to peaceful purposes." High Counselor Zixtal's scales rippled with thoughtful blue patterns. "You're suggesting they're not just defending themselves, they're sending us a message." "Exactly," Krell confirmed. "Every time we engage them, they've demonstrated not just their defensive capabilities, but their potential value as allies. The same creativity they used to turn civilian technology into weapons could be used to advance peaceful technologies throughout the galaxy." The council chamber erupted in discussion, neural networks buzzing with rapid exchanges of data and opinion. Finally, Zixtal raised their primary appendages for silence. "We have made a fundamental error," the High Counselor declared. "We evaluated humanity's potential threat level based on their military technology. We should have been measuring their creativity, their adaptability, their ability to see new possibilities in the ordinary." Zixtal activated their own neural interface, displaying a final piece of data. The recipe for chocolate souffle that had been transmitted after the Titan station battle. They defend themselves with kitchen equipment, yet still offer to share their culinary arts. They repel our fleets with entertainment systems, then provide us with cultural broadcasts calibrated for our enjoyment. Even in conflict, they think in terms of potential peace. The High Counselor's scales shifted to the deep gold of formal proclamation. "I propose an immediate change in our approach to human space, not as primitives to be conquered, but as innovators to be welcomed. Their ability to reimagine technology's purpose could revolutionize countless fields across the hegemony." "And if they refuse?" another council member asked. Then we face an opponent who can turn any technology into a defensive system, who sees possibilities we cannot imagine, and who has already demonstrated they can defeat our military forces using equipment designed for cooking and entertainment. I prefer to have such minds as allies. The Council voted unanimously to extend formal diplomatic recognition to humanity. As the session concluded, Zixtal added a personal note to the official record. The humans have taught us that true advancement lies not in the technology we possess, but in how we imagine its use. They have achieved with creativity what we sought to accomplish with force. Perhaps it is we who have been primitive in our thinking. Hours later, as the first official diplomatic mission prepared to depart for Earth, they received a transmission from the Human Entertainment Network, an invitation to a cultural exchange program, along with a note that made even Zixtal's scales ripple with amusement. Bring your favorite recipes. We're always looking for new ideas to work with. Just remember, in human hands, anything can be more than it seems. The age of human innovation had not just changed warfare. It had opened the door to a new kind of peace, built on the endless possibilities that creativity could unlock in even the most ordinary technology.